Welcome to the Don't Die Rusty podcast. I'm Rick Hanson, and we will be talking about living, not dying. We're all in this adventure together, and we will be interviewing people who inspire us to live our best lives. People with various backgrounds who will walk us down the trails they took to not die rusty. Adventure and life are many things to many people. It could be a sprint or an endurance race, but with each adventure, we become a better version of us. We hope you keep chasing those dreams, being the best you, and of course, don't die rusty. Hello, Don't Die Rusty Nation. Tonight is going to be a wonderful talk about adventure, about all kinds of things. My guest tonight is Curt Alemeier. And the funny thing about Curt is I get messages every once in a while, and it's funny because my sister said, I want you to talk to two people, and I'm going to give you who they are, and you get a hold of them and talk to them. They have great stories. And my sister Deb said, Curt, I need to talk to you. So then I started following you, looking for you on social media and saying, that is the perfect Don't Die Rusty person. So Curt, you grew up in Gettysburg, South Dakota. Introduce yourself a little bit. I don't know really how to introduce you. You've seemed to have done a lot of stuff. So what's important to you that people should know?
I'm correct. I'm from Gettysburg, South Dakota. I grew up on a farm, mostly crops. I've kind of traveled and lived in different areas from Denver to Minnesota throughout my life, and traveled pretty much around the world to different countries and stuff. And so I've always kind of been into a travel mode or different adventures. And now I push myself to do little higher end traveling adventures, I would say, than when you're younger. I'm into Jeeps, off-roading, sailing, hiking. I dive. I'm a certified diver. And so water's probably my top pick. If I was going to pick something to be doing and on, I would prefer to be in the water, pretty much.
I talked to you the other day about that, and I said, well, the water thing, I think the water thing for me is, growing up in South Dakota, watching Jaws, I never had to worry about a shark coming to eat me. Like I said, I lived in Australia. Everybody knows that if they've listened to this podcast, but it's interesting because when I first flew into Australia, I had a 10-hour layover in Sydney before I flew over to Perth, and a guy just got ate up by a tiger shark. And I was going, oh my gosh, I didn't need to hear this stuff. But anyway, no, it's funny because when I started following you and seeing you went on these adventures, and I saw that's what Don't Die Rusty is about, is living your best life and going on adventures and doing the things that you won't regret in the end not doing, that's the most important part of Don't Die Rusty. And then there's things that impact me, and I'm not real close, but I have friends that their granddaughter died yesterday, and she had cancer, and I'm thinking to myself, I think she was 2021, and it tells me that for me personally, you need to live your life to the fullest, because you never know when anything's going to happen. And that's why I'm going to enjoy talking to you, because you've done a lot of fun stuff, and you inspire me to do more stuff too.
Correct. I 100% agree with you. I don't have regrets in life. There's nothing in my life that I regret. Mostly because if you're regretting something, you're not happy where you're at in life. So I'm 100% happy where I'm at. And I do not ever want to wake up one day and say, I wish I would have done that. I'd rather wake up and go, God, I wish I didn't have to go to work at 70. It would be exactly. It would be more enjoyable. And so I want to do things now before I'm not able to. 100%. I lost, like my grandpa died when he was 42 from cancer. My dad passed away 3 years ago from same thing. And I've had a lot of family members that have died from cancer, and it's like they waited too long in life to start exploring. My dad worked his butt off until he realized he had cancer, and then he decided, hey, I should start seeing the world a little bit. Well, at that point, you're tied up with constantly being in hospitals too. So I don't want to live that way. I would rather, flip side of it, I'm also set up for more. I do Airbnbs and stuff, so my income still comes in. It's just I don't have to be at a physical place to do it anymore, and so that allows me to do it. And to do that, you have to have some kind of supplemental income, or your income has to be being able to work away from everything. You can't show up for a job every day.
Yeah. But I mean, those are the decisions we have to make. And it, there was a study I just saw. I don't know where it was, but it said that most people's regrets are by not what they've done, it's what they didn't do. And that's why I'm happy to be doing this. It's like I didn't ask that girl out, and I should have asked that girl out, or I didn't go on that trip, and I should have went on that trip. And that's where Don't Die Rusty goes. Is you need to live the Don't Die Rusty attitude, and like it doesn't have to be. You're going on crazy adventures, and I can't wait to talk about those. And you've been on crazy adventures too, but they don't always have to be crazy adventures. There could be a 4 or 5 day adventure, or they can be a 6 months adventure, a year adventure. But I know not everybody is an adventure person either. But you know what? It's funny. We both grew up in South Dakota, and we both want to see the world. We both want to see what's out there. I think that makes us. I'm not knocking anything, but I think that makes you more rounded and more educated. And you don't have to go to school to get educated. It's about being out in that world.
Correct. 100%. Yep. I agree with you. It's some people get complacent, I would say, in life, and they're happy where they're at. A lot of friends and family I talk to in South Dakota don't care to come. I spend a lot of my time down south along the Gulf, whether it's New Orleans, Alabama, to the Keys, and even in the Keys, it's a very diverse group of people. They're from all over. It's funny. The first time I went to a bar there on a Sunday in Marathon, Florida, there was more Bengals and Packers fans than anything. And I was like, what is going on? All these people are from up north that go down there.
Uh,
And so, but a lot of them are older, and some of them are just people that move from up north that are tired of the cold. And so you're going to find that everywhere. Same, you have people that move from down south that just are tired of the heat and humidity. So, and they go
mhm.
north a little bit. Um, but yeah, you definitely got to get out there and see the world, whether it's, like you said, a few days to a few months or whatever you're able to do. On some of my trips, I have people that fly in for a week. Just, it's their only way to get away. And to me, it's great. I talk to friends all the time and tell them, hey, just come down for a week, come visit. Here's where I'm going to be, fly into this town, and I'll come grab you from the airport. Here's what we're doing for the week. So, yeah.
And that's what you did with me. I'm gonna come down and see you in Key West here, and that's gonna be fun. I will talk about that a little later. But and you know what's you, I talked to one of your friends last night that I'm going to do another podcast with. I don't want to let people know who that is because I want it to be a surprise here. But I don't. We talked about. Uh, I put it in. I'll have to say South. I wrote it down because it just struck me last night, and I put it in a note. We were talking about. He's from South Dakota too, and it's we were talking about stuff, and it was like South Dakota honest. Like it's interesting how we were talking like you might find a South Dakotan anywhere. You can pick them out in the crowd just about, but maybe we're more trusting, and maybe we're more. Some people I should say just, but we're more like accepting of things, and we just kind of let things roll, and we like. I just think it was like South. I just like that thought, South Dakota honest. There's you go other places and they're more cynical. And
Yeah.
where I'm going with this is you and I talked 45 minutes the other night, and by the end of the conversation, you said, "Come on down to Key West and spend a few days," and I'm going to. And that's where I'm going, South Dakota honest. It's like you either know or don't know, and most of the time it's like oh, this will be pretty cool, and those kind of things. So that's awesome.
Yeah, and I try to spend time incorporating people that follow me and stuff like that. Like when was in Costa Rica, I'll look for people that are down there and say, hey, do you guys want to go ziplining for the day or whatever? I'll try to find different groups of people to join in on the adventures or whatever in that area that I'm in. And so it's people I've never met. And sometimes you have people that'll be like, yeah, can I come or what time or whatever else. So, and it's amazing how you talk about South Dakota. So at my RV resort where I'm at right now, I live here pretty much full time. Um, there's 130 spots here. And I don't think I told you this, but there's 9 people from South Dakota here. And I didn't know that till after I bought and started moving around. And 2 people are from Spearfish that are here. And so it's kind of funny how you run into one gal. She goes, well, I know your mom. I was like, really? So I found out she grew up in Gettysburg. And when I was super young, like 3 or 4, she moved away. So I know her family, but not her.
Yep.
So she's from my hometown in Gettysburg. And then another guy here has a cabin right next to mine out in Lead area, Deadwood Lead, South Dakota. And so it's just a really small world once you start getting out there and talking to people. But you have to do that. You have to get out and talk to people to understand that you probably have a connection with somebody if you just talk, communicate.
You do. And that's the biggest thing. Like, I mean, I talk to a lot of people and they say, how do you find these guests? Well, I'm not afraid to ask. And first of all, I'm not afraid to talk. A lot of people know that about me too. I'm not afraid to talk, but the more the biggest thing, I'm curious and I want to learn, and I want to learn about all different kinds of stuff. And I think that's what has driven me to go on adventures. And I think that's probably somewhat of what you're driven to learn.
Correct.
You
Yes.
know, so many people are different, and I figure I'm not going to learn anything until I talk to everybody. It, it- Here's one funny thing. Like I've been places and that I don't know why, but the money smells like cash, and it's a different thing. Like people, you can't go on the internet and go to Costa Rica. You have to go there to experience it.
Yes. 100%. You can look
So
at all the pictures that you want to, and it doesn't do justice of what it's like there in the community. Um, and just how well they treat you as an American. Yeah, it's like no other city or country where you go. There's dangerous areas you got to stay out of, and you got to learn what to do and what not to do and stuff like that. People are afraid of Costa Rica because of the danger as well. Anywhere in the world, even if you look at the U.S., they talk about the dangers on TV all the time. They don't talk about the other areas and things to do that are fun anymore. Sadly, in the news. So, but yeah, you got to get it out there and explore to really see the adventures and things that are out there. Even like the last trip, which I think we're going to talk about here in a little bit, so I won't touch on it too much. But when we went across the U.S. in the RV and Jeeps and stuff, um, Moab and Utah, for example, I did not realize what Utah was like. You saw it in the books, you read about it in school, you did this, you saw pictures on the news. It is a whole different country. When you pull up to the Grand Canyon, they describe it pretty well, on how big it is, but until you really see it, it just you can't explain it.
well, we might as well get into it because I it's Moab is an interesting place. I love Moab. And actually I love the LaSalles. The LaSalles if you ever get a chance, and I don't know if you were there, get a chance, but the LaSalles to me, right next to Moab, there's a mountain range right next to the LaSalles, and and in the fall they are some of the prettiest mountains you will ever see when the leaves start turning, and it's like an island amongst the out in the middle of nowhere actually, and I love it. And the highest peak that it has a second highest peak, Mount Peel, and I went to try to climb it this uh, Memorial Day, but there was a little snow and I got a little altitude sickness, so I didn't get. I was like 400 yards from the top and said this isn't worth it, and we climbed back down. But you're right, Moab is, and just a different. People have to experience it. You have to experience Moab in itself as a town, and you have to experience the country around it.
Yeah, correct. I can't remember. I know some people would kill me right now if I what I'm going to say, but one of the pathways we took over in Moab, we went from Moab to Montrose, Colorado in our Jeeps. It was about a 3-day trip across there on the trail, and I think we went through there or it was by it, because I remember that name, and I just can't. I was gone for 5 months, and I saw so many different mountains that I can't remember them all. I just can't.
Yeah.
Somebody told me, because I couldn't remember certain things. People are like, "What trail was the best?" or "What was this?" And I said, "I don't remember." I honestly quit forgetting what we did, and I talked to some guys that did that, where they spent a half a year traveling in Jeeps, and they said in about a year to 2 years you're going to start remembering them all. It's an intense overload of names and different stuff, and they said as you get away from it, you'll start recalling the names and which one you liked and what state they were in and stuff like that. So it's kind of coming back because you start thinking about them or pictures pop up or whatever. And so it's starting to come back. But I remember that name. I can't say that I went through there. I don't know.
Yep.
But, it was, I loved it. It was a great town. It was a hell of an experience. It really was, especially looking at all the bridges and stuff. We did some hiking over there, and we climbed one mountain. It was called Aztec. I can't remember what it was. The weirdest thing in the world. People are like, well, there's an old, and we're talking like a couple 1,000-year-old living quarters at the top. And so we're like, oh, well, let's hike up there. And halfway up, we realized we are free climbing on a damn near vertical mountain to get up there. And we didn't know. We found other people at the base, and they were like, well, which way do we go? And somebody had told us look for piles of rocks. Well, that didn't really help because you're looking for rocks on rocks. And I ended up getting stuck in a spot where I was pretty much vertical without safety gear and climbing back down, 50 foot, I think I was up. I had yelled at everybody else, this isn't the right direction. And finally somebody found it and got above me. But it was the first time I'd ever climbed without rope. And usually I have some kind of safety line with me. And I didn't. So it was a learning experience to never go, fine, we can do this without supplies. And I had all my other gear, but I didn't carry any line with me because I didn't think I would need it because so many people climb up there. But it was so weird because we got up top, and I don't know how these people climbed that every single day carrying supplies up there because you're at the top of this mountain where there's no water. There was no puddles up there to collect water. And they seriously had to have climbed up there every single day catching food and going back up, and I'm sure they were barefoot or leather shoes or whatever it was. I don't know if I'd ever climb it again, but it was fun. It was worth it. And it's little things like that where even though you're nervous halfway up because of what's going on, I don't really get scared. I get more nervous. And I'm like, I'm already pretty much up here. I'm going. I don't care. So it was really fun. We got up top, and everybody else up there was trying to figure out how to get down because getting up was a lot easier than getting down. And you realize how far you actually have to kind of hang off the cliff to climb back down. And it's like, oh my God, I can't believe we got up here. So there's things like that all the time that you're happy you did. And when you're done, you're happy about it.
And that's one of the things, like, you don't have to do it 10 times. You've done it once. You don't need to do it again. And we'll just say, but you can say you've done it. You can, the experience you did. And those are the things that I look at. There's things that I've jumped out. I went parachuting, skydiving. I don't need to do that again. I mean, I've done it once. It just doesn't interest me like it, I would go bungee jumping any day, which is funny, you know what I mean? I love bungee jumping, but the skydiving just didn't do anything for me. I was like, I don't know what it was, but anyway, what got you started to go plan this trip of jeeping and going across America?
I always used to do small trips. So I would, like you talked about earlier, I would leave for a week or a weekend or a couple weeks here or there, and I'd slowly grow it to be a little bit longer. And eventually ran into different people in the mountains when we were jeeping and stuff that wanted to do longer trips. But a lot of people don't want to do those long ones unless you have somebody with. Some of the stuff we do, it's better to have people with you. Things go wrong, different things like that. Especially like our three-day trip across, from Utah to Colorado through the mountains. You're not on highways. You're in the mountains. You're cutting through trails. Things go wrong, you might not see anybody for 4 or 5 days or more. So it's better to have somebody with you. Our sailing trips, same thing. It's better to have more people with you. Numbers is always a good thing in certain things. So we started planning 3-4 years ago a lot of these trips, and we'll take at least a year to plan a trip. Our jeeping trip, that was a 5-month trip, was almost a whole year of planning. We meet people that do it. They just decide they're up and leaving. That's fine, but that's not my. I'll do that, but I'm not for a 5-month trip. I need to have things planned out. So, but you'll meet people that do that. They just decide they're done and they up and leave. And that's kind of when I bought my sailboat 4 years ago. I just up and left South Dakota. So I knew what I wanted, though. I had spent 5, 6, 7 years planning and looking through boats and stuff. So it wasn't just a quick purchase. Obviously, I'm not talking about a 20-foot sailboat either. So, I spent a lot of time researching it, and I up and left and moved down to New Orleans on the boat for the most part and started learning more about sailing and stuff like that. So our trip that we're doing long-term with sailing, we've been planning for almost a year and a half now. So there's a lot of planning that goes into it for safety-wise if you want to take that more safety route. So same thing with Jeeps. RVs, what supplies do you need to take with? What do you have for your RV? How well is it maintained? Stuff like that. You have to take your time and plan. I think that's where a lot of people make mistakes is they up and leave on a trip and it didn't go as well as they wanted. And now they don't want to travel anymore. They don't want to experience different things because, I tried that once and this went wrong. Yeah, but did you plan for it? The issues that you had. There's not an issue I'm not going to run into probably. I mean, I've even on my boat where if we capsize, I have a plan. So, yes, it went wrong, but crap goes wrong every day in the world for everybody. So
It does.
you have a plan that makes you
funny.
feel comfortable when you're done. You're not as hateful towards the idea if you have a plan.
Exactly. And that's, I mean, in anything, I usually have an idea. I do fly by the seat of the pants on a few things. That's just on little things, but usually you have a plan. I'm going to go there, and then I mean, on most any trip you have certain plans. But here, my plan, I don't like. I like to make my own plans, though. I couldn't go to a tour guide myself and say, I want to plan out because if I want to stay, like if I find this little town that I really, really like, I want to spend a couple days there, and the itinerary says we got to be moving. That's my plans could change, but I'm going to still keep on moving in that direction. So
Yes.
that's the cool thing there. But how that would be interesting. I'm just looking at the mountains from where I've seen things from Utah to Colorado, and holy moly, you taking a Jeep across there, that would have been an amazing trip.
It was probably one of the coolest trips. It actually got me into a whole different adventure when I get back from sailing. I bought another pickup to do more overlanding. So there's a little bit of difference between what I did with my Jeep versus overlanding. But the trail we took is an overlanding trip. You spend the night, you camp, you do different stuff like that. So the trail we took is called Rim Rocker Trail, and it's people claim you can do it in one day. If you really pushed it and went fast, you probably could do it in 24 hours. Most people do it in 3-4 days. 2 to 4 days is what a lot of people do it. So we took all our supplies with and to live out there, and then obviously we always double. You 2 to 2.5 times what your plan of staying out. That's where a lot of people make mistakes, is they take enough for what they think. And we always plan for double to 2.5. So like when I sail, I take 2.5 to 3 actually with. If I can drink X amount of waters per day, you got to learn that stuff if you're going to be out there, and some of that stuff of how much water, how much food can you take every day, and take that with. So, like, I had a 30 gallon bladder of water with me, and things go wrong. The knob got knocked while we were driving up the mountain. I heard water splashing in the back of the pickup. We jumped out and realized about probably 10 gallons had dumped into the back seat. So
Oh my gosh.
there's a perfect example of why you take 2 to 3 times your stuff. We lost a third of our water, and it was just purely the thing rocked around. It hit the handle. I thought I had the handle in a safe spot, and a mistake happened. But I wasn't worried because I knew where we were. I knew how much supplies I had, and it was like, crap. There's our backup. And you keep going. You dry it up, and you keep going. You're mad for about 2 minutes, but then you just wave it off and you keep moving. And you can't sit and get too mad about it. So, but it was definitely a adventure. If you love camping, it's a really cool adventure because it's not very technical. A little bit. There's one area where they have rock slides all the time that you got to cross, and it's not technical. It looks technical, but it's not. You're basically driving across rocks, and in your head you're like, this could slide at any time. Yeah, it could, but it ain't going to. Usually you have to have some kind of movement, earthquake nearby, or something that is going to cause it to move. So it's just being smart about different stuff and paying attention to it, and you're fine. But it was definitely a really awesome trip. I think on that one we had 4 vehicles. We had 3 Jeeps and 1 Bronco. My son was with during that time, so he had his Bronco there.
Awesome.
So
how many extra tires do you take?
So a lot. On my Jeep, I'm always carrying an extra one that's fully rimmed, and I will always take on my trailer where I pull my Jeep behind the RV. I had 3 other tires that are good. So this trip, we didn't lose any Jeep tires. They're slashed. Like, I'll replace them if I go on another trip. There's 3 of them that definitely need to be replaced, but I kept using them till they were going to blow. But if I'm going to start a fresh trip, I'm gonna kick them off and replace them. But I've been on a week trip and I've lost 2 or 3 tires. So you just got to be prepared. It's a matter of what type of mountains you're in and what you can hit and stuff like that. So my tires have Kevlar on the side of them, so they can be slashed up pretty easy on the side and not have a problem. But you're not going to want to go 80 down the highway on them because they'll probably explode.
Huh. Well, that is interesting to me. I mean, it's fun to learn all kinds of stuff that like I said, things just pop up into my head, and I just thinking, what else would you take? But so you went on the trip. Here's a question for you. Like, you go on a trip like that, how do you feel when you're done? When you know the adventure's done, over, like you've reached the end of the line. I mean, you've done this for 4 or 5 months, and then is it like? Because I've been on trips where like you're with friends, and it's like you've been together for like a week, and sometimes it's like that saying goodbye thing is like, geez, I hate it's over, and then there's some that just say, well, thank God it's over.
I want to say it's almost like an addiction. So when you get home, you're happy you're home, but you're not. That's where, like I mentioned earlier, where I couldn't remember, I was forgetting different stuff in towns we stayed in and stuff like that. And a lot of it became a blur. And on the way home, we had more issues than during the trip. We pulled in 400 miles away from being home, and we had 1 night stay left. And when I was fueling up, I got back in the RV, and my engine had locked up, kind of, to keep it simple for people. But I had a depth problem inside the motor, and I could only go about 2 miles an hour. And so luckily I had fueled up at a Love's truck stop, pulled over to their area, said, hey, can you guys help me fix this? They hooked up their stuff, told me what the problem was, and said they're not allowed to work on RVs, but they could run the code on it. And I took a chance. I said, "Can you reset this?" I grew up on a farm, so I understood how the systems work. And I said, "Is this something we can reset real quick for me?" Because I had called Freightliner for support, and they said I was 6 miles outside of their area, which meant I had to go 6 more miles down the road. Anybody that knows towing, when you have a big tow truck come out, just to call them's $1,500, and then it's every mile after that adds up. So I said, "Can you reset this so I can try to get 6 miles down the road, and I'll call these guys again and have them come fix it?" Because it was under warranty, but I was 6 miles outside of the warranty window. And he reset it, and I asked him, I said, "What do you think? How far do you think I can make it?" He goes, "I don't know. I've never done that on an RV." And I said, "Okay." So the problem was, when they were doing this, I realized I had a flat tire. Loves would not let me change the flat tire while they were doing that on their property. So I got them to change my engine, unlock it. I pulled outside, changed my tire real quick on my trailer, and I took off down the road. And I was like, "You know what? I'm just gonna go all the way home if I can." I knew I'd be within their area of reach anyway, and so we just kept driving, and I never stopped. And we were supposed to spend the night somewhere in between, and I just looked at Natalia and I said, "We're gonna keep going, and we're gonna go until we can't anymore." I said, "This thing's running. I got enough fuel to get to back to my RV spot in Alabama, in Orange Beach," and we went all the way. And when I was home, I was happy it didn't break down. But I was, like now I miss, I talk to her all the time about it, how I miss this and that, the things that we did, the things that we saw, the different tiny things we did. So we got back in August, what would it be? So about 4 months ago, would that be? 5 months ago? We got, or right, August 1st, somewhere in there we got back. So, and now me and her talk all the time. Like the other night I told her, I said, "I missed this, this, and this." And it was the little things that we were doing, the little towns that we would go into and spend the night in and learn about them. We learned so much about different areas of the U.S. that, because we went through 23 states. We started in Alabama, went up to Virginia. If somebody wants to know all the states we hit, they can look that up. And, we came back down to Kentucky, over to Kansas, where my son joined us, went down to Texas, and over to Utah in Colorado area, and then we went back. We were supposed to come up through Wyoming and South Dakota and cut back across. The last 2 weeks of the trip, we were going to make just visiting different cities that she had never seen: Chicago, St. Louis, Nashville. And I just felt things were starting to go wrong, which they did. And I told her, I said, "Let's just go back. Something's not feeling right about the trip." And I canceled the last 2 weeks, and we decided to go back, which was still going to take us 4 to 5 days. And so the last 2 days was when everything went wrong. And it just... So you have to learn when to cut, too. If you don't feel something's running right, leave. Go. Because you're going to be on your trip, and all kinds of stuff can happen. And if you know your equipment or your stuff you're driving, your vehicle, you just know when things are not seeming right. Things don't feel right. And just go home. And it's a lot nicer that way. So it's hard to really tell you how I feel after a trip's done like that, because you're happy you're home. You've been gone for 4 or 5 months, but you miss it. And so then you start looking for your next adventure. And I usually plan my adventures out almost 2 years ahead of time. So I could pretty much tell you where I'm going to be in 2 years. I know what kind of adventure I'm going to be on. I think for me to stay with my concept of the adventures I do, I tell people about them, because it keeps you accountable. And people at first always thought I was full of crap. Like, there's no way you're going to do that. Like, when I bought my sailboat, everybody's like, there's no way this dude's going to buy a sailboat. And then all of a sudden, I got 500 messages on Facebook like, "You really did buy a sailboat?" Yeah, I told you I was going to buy one. But being in South Dakota, that just sounds like the dumbest idea in the world. And I get it. Your friends in South Dakota are like, "Yeah, this guy's crazy," but he ain't buying a sailboat. Doesn't know anything about it. And it holds you accountable to push yourself every day. It's no different than setting goals for anything else you do in life. Even, you probably have a goal of how many people you want to interview per week or per month. And if you don't write that down or know what it is, it doesn't hold you accountable. And you fall behind or you don't pay attention. So it's
No,
same thing with trips and adventures.
no, and I actually write down adventures and trips and goals and all kinds of things. I write them down. You're right on the accountable part. In, I mean, if you're a longtime listener here, but I climbed Crow Peak here 100 times in 6 months. But I went on social media. I was sitting on top of Crow Peak on New Year's Day and said, "This is my goal, and I'm going to do it." And I said it out to the world. And I thought, now you can't go back on this, or you're going to look like you're just a big talker. And I did it, and I did it like 6 months. I was averaged 3 times a week, and which was amazing. And the stuff came out, but then you've accomplished a goal, and is that's why I asked that, because when I got done, it was like, now what do I do? You know what I mean? I hadn't had anything else really planned. I had a couple other adventures planned, but it's like I've told it now. I'm looking for that next big adventure, and it's interesting that I'll find it here. I mean, I have a great wife that supports me and stuff, and she goes on a lot of the adventures. But it's just interesting.
I,
We'd go on
I
our own
have one.
adventures too.
I have one for you that you could do.
Yeah.
So I'm not 100% set on it, so that's why I don't really feel like saying it. But what the hell? Um, in about a year and a half, it would include climbing and cold climbing. Um, I want to head over to Everest and climb to the base of Everest.
Well.
So the base. We're not talking Camp Two,
No,
Camp
but
Three, Camp Four. So you basically have to go over and spend about 2 weeks over there to get acclimated to it. And so a lot of my adventures this year were to see if my body could handle that. So we actually climbed down into um, the Grand Canyon, and I climbed back up in one day. I'm 270 pounds, 6'4". I'm a big guy, but I've always been involved in sports and stuff, so I know how to push my body, and it's different because it's cold. But you have to go get acclimated, and I could tell the difference on this trip here, where I eventually got acclimated to about 10,000 foot. I think it was 9,700 foot. My body got acclimated to. Well, the highest we hiked was 13,200 foot, I think, this year. Um, and some of it was 10 miles, some was 20 miles, some was 5 miles. It would vary. And we did, I think, close to 60 miles of the Appalachian Trail. So we did some of the Appalachian Trail down in South Carolina or North Carolina. I can't remember which one it was. And then we went up Virginia and we did some more of the Appalachian Trail up in that area. That's what made me think I need to do Everest. So yeah. And then one night I was watching the movie Everest, and I'm like, oh my god, I gotta go to base camp. And so a lot of it's just spur of
well,
the moment that pops the idea in my head, and I start wanting to do it. And you find somebody to go with, or you do it on your own. And yeah,
well, the funny thing about that is we talked about our favorite books in the last episode, and I talked about I'm a big I I don't know if you remember in '96 when they had the big problem where everybody got stuck up on top of Everest, and Beck Weathers lost some of his nose, people died. Anatoly, I can't think of his name, was there. John Krakauer was there. I've
I think
read.
that's the movie Everest. The actual name Everest. I think that movie's about that day.
Yes, and but we were talking, and my friend Ashley and I said it's funny because she came from Iowa, I'm from South Dakota, and I would go out at night. Like my mom would be just like, "Why are you doing this?" More or less. I was in high school yet, but I'd get all my warm clothes on in a blizzard and walk down the road just to try to feel like it would be like on Everest. You know what I mean? So when you said Everest Base Camp, I because that has me interested just to climb in Nepal and go to see the base camp. I don't need, you know what I mean? You have just piqued my interest, is what I'm saying, because it's just funny how we talked about that, and it was just like I've always wanted to go to Nepal and just go up to the base camp. You
Yes,
know,
it's a 14-day hike.
especially
They do about 6 to 7 miles a day. Um, Cost isn't that bad, because you have the Sherpas. I think that's how you pronounce their name, but they carry a lot of your stuff. You carry your daily gear,
yeah,
and they basically give you a really off the wall boonies type staying. I think they have little shacks for you to stay in, but basically there's no water. It's just a little shelter, and you can spend the night there. But it sounds like they cook you food at night and stuff, at least. So your night meal will be cooked for you. They have people at these little shelter things. I think you're allowed to stay outside, which I don't. One or two nights I might stay outside, but it's about a 14-day hike. They take you, and it's amazing. I looked at the height of where we would go, and there's no way to train in the United States for this to acclimate your body.
yeah,
Even if you go to Colorado, your height to base camp, the base camp of Everest is higher than anything in the United States, pretty much. So
yep,
you can't do it, and so you
yep.
pretty much gotta. That's why when we did the 13.2 or 3, I can't quite remember the height we were at. I got it saved somewhere on my phone. It was in the 13,000s, and I realized how just walking uh, 50 feet, 100 foot, wear you out. A lot of people don't understand. The difference is I wasn't just getting out of a vehicle and walking, 10, 50 yards. I would have a 40-pound bag on my back.
Mm-hmm.
So it's different than just jumping out in your shorts and t-shirt and walking that far. You're out of air, and once you get acclimated, it's much different. You feel like you're up there. The problem was with our climbing this year is where I'm at right now. I'm basically, the last 3 years, my body's acclimated to about 100 foot. So I'm generally, right before this trip, I had spent 9 months at my house down in the Keys, and I was at 0 or 7 foot. I think my house was at 7 foot elevation. So the 2.5 years prior to that, I was in New Orleans, and so I was at -6. So I was actually below sea level for 2.5 years. So, and now all of a sudden I'm climbing in the Rockies and stuff, and it pushed me a lot, especially when we got up to Grand Canyon. I think the highest peak we were at was about 9,000 foot. And, we would climb down 2,000, 3,000 foot and climb back up and stuff. And holy crap. It was, they had switchbacks. So we did Angels Landing, I think it is. Angel something out there. Angel
Yeah.
Blue something. And it's switchbacks all the way up. You do switchbacks. And I started off going back up. I did a 2 switchbacks. And then I was like, that's too much. I need to slow down. So I did 1 switchback. And it was okay for about 2 switchbacks. And then all of a sudden I only could make it over once. And then all of a sudden by the end, even though that exit was only 300 yards away, I was maybe doing about 20, 30 yards, and I'd have to stop. It was so funny on the way up. These people ran by us, literally ran, but they're going down the mountain. So I was like,
Yeah.
it's crazy. And I was taking a break, and pretty soon they came running by going back up. And I was like, holy crap. I mean, they looked like they were about 50 years old. And they ran down, and they ran back up. So you could tell that they were acclimated. And after a while, I started getting acclimated, and there was a big difference. I was no longer out of breath.
Yeah.
It wasn't my body couldn't handle. I just couldn't breathe. I couldn't get oxygen, and so I had to stop. And I was like, I don't get this. My muscles were wanting to push on and everything else, but I just couldn't do it. So it was a really cool adventure. Definitely, we climbed, we explored. There were so many places we saw out there. I think one of the coolest things we didn't realize, we had pulled in through Kentucky, and we stayed. What state were we would have been in? Indiana, maybe. like like 10 miles outside of Louisville. I can't remember. We went across the state line like 10 miles over into a different state. And we're like, well, let's go back into Louisville and check it out. Because I knew they had Louisville Slugger there and stuff like that. And I wanted to go see, I'm a huge sports guy. So I was like, let's go back. I want to go see Louisville Slugger. And they had the college there. And I drove by the stadium. And so we went back in town. And I was like, looking at Talia, I said, man, this town's really cool. They had all these events going on. They had all these parades and things that we asked somebody, I said, what is going on? Why is this like this every day during the middle of the week? They said, well, this is the Derby week. Tonight's the first night of the race. And I'm like, you're kidding me. So we happened to be there when Derby started. So we went out and toured the Chapel. Is it Chapel Hill? Is that the name of the?
I know it's not Chapel Hill, I don't think, is it?
That's not that one. So I got on my fridge, I don't know if they can see it, these are all the different places I've stopped at. Churchill Downs, that's what it is.
Churchill Downs, yeah.
So I get a magnet from everywhere I go.
Oh, cool.
So I have hundreds of magnets up here. So we went and toured Churchill Downs and Louisville, the Slugger, the baseball bat place. And we went to, I did not realize, is it Sugar Ray Leonard? One of those major boxers was from that town. And we went, I didn't realize he grew up there. They had a big historical building for him. And it was just really cool. That was probably one of the coolest stops because I didn't realize how neat the area was. And we spent 3-4 hours inside of Churchill and touring the different stuff there at the Derby. I've never been into horse racing, so I didn't even know what was going on. But yeah, it was neat. But we had to hike basically because it was all starting that week, so we had to park like 2 miles away just to go visit because you had to have a pass to get in there. So the visitation parking was not available anymore. You had to park way down the road and walk all the way back. And so it was like I did not come to town to hike today. That was not my. But it was definitely neat. The scariest Jeep hill we did would have been Black Bear. Oh gosh, no. Give me 1 second. Jeep Trail. Is it Black Bear? No, it can't be. Yeah, it is. Black Bear Pass. So we did Black Bear Pass out in Colorado, which has some of the most, depending on who you talk to, it's one of the deadliest trails to do. And so, yes. I didn't think it was, but by this time I already had 4 months of Jeeping under my belt, and I'd seen a lot of stuff, so I was very, very comfortable because it was nonstop Jeeping up to that point. I didn't think, if you weren't paying attention, yes. So the week after we left, 2 Jeeps had fell over the ledge. If you look up the Black Bear Pass in Rex, you'll see one where a red Jeep went off the cliff. And it just rolled right in front of somebody else. So they didn't even know they were going over. They were above them. But you look straight down, and it's a half mile down. And it's straight down. So I actually made 2 videos. If you went back through my old videos, I made 2 of those on my stuff. And it was intense because you're a few inches away from the edge of the cliff, and you're driving. But I was so comfortable with how my Jeep felt that I wasn't worried. A flat tire or a blown tire on that trip would have scared you because it would tip you over. There's one area where, if you watch one of the videos, you can see my Jeep. I'm climbing down, and you'll see it slide over. That's because it was such at an angle that when I went over a rock, it slid because it was pulling me, and so your back tire's up off the ground. The highest I ever had a back tire off was almost 5 foot, and my Jeep was up in the air like this. But you're going to roll right into a little dirt wall, so I don't care. It's not scary, but you're looking straight down into a cliff. You're going to die. And so I didn't think it was that bad. But there's a lot of people that die on that cliff or that trail. And it's a different intensity. So
I bet it is.
Yeah, some people wear Depends, I think, when they go on that trail. But
Well, mm, that's crazy. I mean, I, that'd be interesting just to see it. I'm going to go back here and look at it. I mean, I would look through I might have went by it. I was trying to get a few things to talk about, and I was going through your social media, and that was interesting. I just was enamored by the adventure, and
it would have
and then
been
you're
like
going.
the last 4 or 5 trails we did in the Jeep. So if you're looking through my Jeep, when you start seeing Jeep trails, it would have been the last couple Jeep trails we did.
All right. So I'll certainly go back and do that, and everybody else should just go and follow you because you have an interesting perspective on life. And how do we're in the middle of this, but how can people follow you?
Well,
I mean, I'll put it in the show notes too.
Facebook, I kept my name as my page because I felt like it was more personal, and Facebook
Hmm.
seems to be a little more personal. Um, Outside of that, I have the Sailing Jeep. I take it, so hashtag the Sailing Jeep. That's my Instagram and TikTok stuff, and I also have everything inside of Facebook has that tag in there also. So the Sailing Jeep would be exactly how they do it. That's the name of my boat also. So if somebody out there understands how to look up the boat, they can actually look up my sailboat name, and it'll show them on the Coast Guard software app or whatever. They can find it with the ASI information, which I know is over some people's head, but um,
Yeah.
yeah, that'll and basically on my Facebook and everything, we'll put a link out there as soon as we start our sailing trip here. That'll I use a Garmin InReach so people can actually follow our sailing trip. They'll be able to see my boat. It'll update every 10 minutes where we're at and stuff like that. We did a little bit of it with the Jeep, but not too much. Um, Safety wise, I didn't want people to know where I was at in the Jeep, so a lot of my videos were posted the day after to 2 days after where I truly was. Um, Sailing will be a little bit harder if I let people follow it, but I'm not too worried about somebody flying over to an island to look for me, so they'll be
Yeah.
able to see where we're at pretty much full time. So
So so we might well get into this next trip you're going to just a little bit. You're going to sail around the world,
yes, yes. Um,
but but you have to take your boat to from New Orleans over to Marathon. Is that correct?
yep. So what we're gonna do first? So I just spent 17 months refitting or rebuilding, but refitting the sailboat. Um, all new wires, all new pipes, all new pumps, everything inside of it to do a round the world circumnavigation. And so what we're going to do is they call it a shakedown sail. So we'll do a couple of those. One of them will be from New Orleans back over to Orange Beach. It'll be a 2 day sail. Um, and we check stuff at Orange Beach. We'll stop for 2 days. We'll double check everything, make sure things are correct and working correctly. From here, we'll sail down to the Keys. That'll take about 5 days, give or take, all on weather. So we'll wait for a weather window. We'll stop for 2 days in Orange Beach, Alabama, and we'll head to the Keys, which is your second shakedown, and that'll pretty much be my last shakedown sail. And so at that time, we should know because we're going to hit some weather, and we'll hit more in harder weather. So from New Orleans to Orange Beach, we're going to be what they call inside of the Mississippi Sound. So we will have islands on the outside of us on our starboard side to the south. And so if something happened and you start floating, you're either going to hit the shore side or you're going to hit an island potentially, float into it. So you're always kind of safe. And then the next one's actually cutting across the Gulf. There, you hope nothing goes wrong. So it
Yeah.
once we get down there, we're gonna move another boat down. One just left Orange Beach about a week and a half ago, and she's safely down into Key West right now. And we're gonna go, and then in I think he's leaving October or November, mid-November. Another boat's gonna move down. I'll get down there around November 1st to 2nd, depending on the weather. And then another guy's going to come down about a week and a half after I get down there. He's going to take off. Him and his wife will take off with their boat and head down to the Keys also. And he's doing the same thing. He's been redoing his boat and making sure everything's right. It gives us 2 weeks. We're going to stop for about 2 to 3 weeks and go over everybody's boat, make sure everything's good. If things are good, we're going to go to the Bahamas mid-December, about December 17th to 19th, where our plan is to take off. And then we'll go to the Bahamas, work our way down to Trinidad. Between Trinidad and Belize is where we're going to stop for the end of the year. That's our goal for June. This is a little different trip because we have everything planned up till January. After that, we're not going to plan it. We're just going to, if everybody's enjoying where we're at, we'll stay for a few more days. We kind of know what islands we want to stop at. It's just a matter of how long we'll stop there. Will depend on if somebody's having issues or if we're enjoying it. If we're not enjoying it, everybody's like, this place is not fun, let's just move. So,
Yeah.
Plus, you're not as intense. Cutting across, like Atlantic to Spain, for example, you need to know what you're doing on what day. You got to know. So we would stop at Bermuda Islands, and then we would go up to the Azul Islands, and then we would go to Spain. And we're going to know almost every day what we're doing, exactly what days we're going to get there, and stuff like that. So you always have a bailout plan, they call it. And so people that on the state side will know we have ways to communicate with them, even if our phones aren't working, to send them a text message, basically. We'll make it simple, like 911, and that tells them to call Coast Guard, and they're going to give Coast Guard our bailout plan that we created. So they'll know our coordinates at that time and that we're having issues. It'll be we have to keep it below 170 characters on the deal, so it would basically tell them we'll have a short key thing set up for them, maybe like the word S means safe or H means hurt. So we'll have 2S, 1H means one person's hurt and we need help. And so then the Coast Guard can read our bailout plan and get to us pretty quick. And we have ASI EPIRB systems that'll also tell them where we're at, but they'll have an idea what's going on. Maybe we're sinking, maybe we got a hole in the boat, we're not sinking, stuff like that. But we can't reach people by radio, and we need help. So once we do that, we're going to stop at the end of hurricane season. That's June. That's why we know we're going to be in Trinidad or Belize, which is a big difference between them. But we know that we're going to be in one of those places. We'll stop during hurricane season, come back to the stateside for a little bit, and then go back over towards the end of hurricane season, probably in September, October, ready our boats, and we'll go through the Panama Canal and keep going across.
Oh, so you aren't going to go in the Southern Ocean then?
We'll be out in the Pacific in about 2 years or a year from right now is when we'll be starting to cross into the Pacific Ocean. Yep.
Oh, awesome. That's cool then.
Probably November next year is when we'll start. If depending on hurricanes next year, if they stop in November, then we'll take off a little early. But otherwise, it would be November, December next year is when we'll be crossing the Panama Canal.
All right. Well,
we're not going around South America. We're not going.
That's where I was going.
That is the worst.
That's where I was going.
It's one of the most dangerous places to go. We're not doing it.
Well, because I watched Cole Brower do that, and it was crazy. And if people don't know who Cole Brower is, she was the first American woman to race across the world, and she did it, and she was amazing. And it's funny, I'm not a big water person, but I love watching this stuff for some reason. Like I said, I have no idea, but I'm cheering you guys on, and it's fun to follow the adventure. And like I said, I followed Cole Brower. Now we'll be following you. I'll be hooking up to the Garmin and watching, but I don't want to go any further really on this with your boat because I'd like to do a little tour when we get there, and we'll, like holy moly, it's October. It's about a month and a half. I'll be down there looking at your boat.
Absolutely. Yep.
So,
and it'll be ready by the time you get there. Or better be. We got issues if it's not.
Well, because I'm excited about this, and I have some stuff for you too. But it's interesting because, like I said, they interest me. I just it's one of those things. I'm a land lover, I guess, but I truly appreciate the adventure that people go on in the world by, you know, people had to get here. Columbus came across here. You know, I mean, all the people that came across, and I'm thinking about, they didn't have the technology, they didn't have the. It was just amazing, this stuff, and it's fun. I want to get down there. I'd like to go through and video and just check this out, because now I know somebody that's going around the world, and it'd be fun to just kind of learn. And then when I follow you, I can say, I saw that, kind of thing.
And part of me pushes me is there's only a couple people from South Dakota that have ever went or circumnavigated, and so
Really?
yes, and I believe so. There's under 200 people have circumnavigated alone, unassisted, and I believe one of them was from South Dakota. Um, I'm pretty sure I read that there was a guy that circumnavigated by himself. And there's what 700 people have went to outer space, and less than 200 have ever circumnavigated on their own. I will not do it on my own. I'll have at least one person on board with me to doing it.
Yeah.
But there's not many from South Dakota that have done it at all. And I think a lot of it helps too. You have your support of your family for the most part. Mom's probably the biggest one. Even when I was jeeping and crossing, she wanted to make sure everywhere we went, it was like almost I'd have to text her every night that we made it with the RV or the jeep, or some of the mountains I was climbing. I think she got a little nervous about. I When it came to Black Bear, I told her not to watch, but I texted her ahead of time and said this is one of the most dangerous trails out there in the United States. And um, so we talked quite a bit before the night before. But after I did it, I honestly wasn't scared. I was like, oh my god, I can't believe people worry about this. But when you're in your Jeep for 4 months prior, climbing every mountain out there possible in the eastern side of the United States, I think you get comfortable after time. So if I'd go out there right now or next year, a year from now, and just be my first cliff or trail, yeah, I'd probably be a little more nervous, I would think. But that's the side of it. You get some family support and your friends supporting you and stuff like that. That helps a lot. And my son's gonna fly over sometime in December, January. Alex and Dylan will hang out with me for a couple weeks and help out too. And so it makes it fun because you have friends and family that can come visit, and they can experience something they've never experienced in their lifetime and see different places they've never seen before. And it's like you have a free house or a free place to stay to go do it. You wake up every morning and you see something different, whether I'm in my RV or Jeep or in the sailboat. You wake up and you see things and see sunsets and sunrises that most people in the world have never seen before. And it's just amazing I think that's what drives me, is just so people can see different stuff, especially like when we were in Costa Rica a couple weeks ago, just ziplining. And it was my first time ever seeing an active volcano. We actually climbed up to the peak and looked around inside. It wasn't spewing over. It hasn't blown up since 1967 or 4, but
Yeah.
it's considered an active volcano. And just seeing the remnants of what it did last time it exploded, 70 years ago, is crazy.
Mm.
It keeps pushing you every day to keep going.
Well, that's what I always tell everybody. It's about the view, and you're never going to see the same view twice. And like, for you, you're going to be traveling around the world, so you'll be able to see different sunrises and sunsets that nobody will ever see again.
Yes.
And and these are the things that's why I like getting out of bed in the morning to see my sunrises, and that's why the view is what it's all about. Even if you'll only, it doesn't matter if you walked outside here now, you'll never see the same view twice. So enjoy the view while you have it.
100%. I agree with you. Yep.
And I love, my mom has died, but it's interesting to me because I loved hearing about you talking about your mom, and because my mom was my biggest supporter too, and she was, and but and we would talk, and I was that's kind of why years ago I got on social media. It was easier for her to see them, this my dad too, but it was easier for him to see what I was doing because it's I mean, I was putting it on social media, with some of my adventures, but I would talk to my mom every morning. Sometimes it was 5 minutes, sometimes it was 20 minutes, depending upon who was doing what, coming from a little town, who was doing what and how long you wanted to talk. But those are the I just those are the best memories I can have because I actually uh, listened to. I have a one. Well, I have actually two voicemails from her. I actually listened to one the other day. But those are the things that are very awesome. That your mom is supporting you on these adventures, and you talk to her, and that just makes life all the much better.
Yeah, and what helps is hearing her say, "I wish I would have done that," or "I wish I could do that." And she's to a point where some of the stuff I'm doing, she can't do anymore.
Yeah.
It's just physically is probably not there to do it. Yeah, sitting in the Jeep might be okay, but your fear level also increases as you get older if you haven't done certain things because you've heard about all the bad things that can happen.
Yeah.
And so that's even like our upcoming sailing trip stuff. I mean, this obviously between now and next time we talk will be the most dangerous part of the trip. It's hurricane season still, so
I know.
we're watching out. But I need to know that I can get through some of that. I've been through some really bad storms out there in the water, so I'm not too nervous about it. You just got to know what you're doing, and I think that's people's biggest problem is, like I mentioned earlier, they don't prepare for those issues and know what to do. And if you're prepared for it, you understand to stay calm and just follow through with what you decided to do. That you have to do that no matter what you're doing out there on an adventure. Even if we would go to Everest, like we better know what we're doing and stuff like that.
Oh,
So
yeah. Altitude sickness. You got to know about sometimes the bandits. I've heard, and then the food is different, and where your stomach is a big deal when you climb up to the base camp.
yeah, yep, 100%.
So those are things. But I'm gonna ask you like I usually ask, but I think I'm gonna ask you now. I usually ask one question at the end of every episode, and I'm going to ask it today. And then I think when I meet you, well, I'll figure out another question to ask you. But what's the good life to Curt?
Oh, like the meaning of it, or what do I
What's
do?
the meaning? What's your meaning of the good life? What makes you feel like, like what's the good life? Like
Being
traveling, seeing the people, being around people, that kind of
living no
whatever.
regrets, waking up every day happy with what you've done so far in life. I have so many friends that talk about how they wish they would have done this, they wish they would have done this differently. And where I'm at today, I planned 10 years ago. People knew where I was going to be in 10 years that were really close to me. And so I stuck with my plan of, I have my 5, 10 year goals and stuff like that. So I could pretty much tell you where I'm going to be at in 5 years. As long as the boat's good, I know about 5 years I'm going to be coming back here from circumnavigating. And once you accomplish that, you know that you've accomplished a large goal in your life. And setting up obtainable goals is what creates my good life, I guess. It keeps you happy, it keeps you motivated. Some people have goals that are just so outlandish, they want to be billionaires by the time they're 50. Well, who doesn't? Like, just
Exactly.
be instead of saying you want to be a billionaire, just say you want to be financially stable enough to do what you want to do in life. Why does it have to be a certain amount? you know and so then it's obtainable. But a good life for me would be um, waking up, being able to do the stuff I want to do, and being happy I've done the things in the past that I've done, and I don't regret the choices that I made. Once you start regretting and wishing you wouldn't have done that, then it turns into a whole different thing. There's days where I'm not saying there's days where I don't wake up going, God, I wish I wouldn't have done that. But the thing is, I also look at it and say, if I didn't do that, I wouldn't be where I'm at today. And I wouldn't have learned from that mistake not to do it again. So I take it as a good thing that I did it. And I move on. I don't live on the whole fact that I should have done it differently. I just move on from where I'm at. And now I've learned the mistake to not do that again. And keep pushing myself to go further and harder at something, I guess, until a point where I can't do it anymore. And then I'll probably go nuts when I'm not able to keep doing stuff. Then I'll be calling you guys saying, "What can we do? We're in wheelchairs. Where can we go?"
That'll be fun. That'll be fine. Probably need a partner by then to go do stuff. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
that'd be awesome. But here's the deal, folks. I am going to go down and see his boat, and I am going to. We'll talk to him before he goes on this wonderful adventure, and then we'll let him go on his venture, and we will keep tabs on him, and then hopefully when he gets back, we'll have we'll listen to what the adventure entailed.
And you're gonna fly down while we're in the Caribbean somewhere too, and do another one, right?
So that'd be awesome. I might have to. You never know.
Well, you better start looking up kite surfing to learn how to do it. So when you come down, you can do some diving and kite surfing.
Oh, that would be fun there. So we'll have to talk about this. So that would be great. But I just want to thank you, Curt, because it's just interesting, and I want to thank my sister for getting me in touch with you. But Deb, thank you. But thank you for what you've done in helping me with other things too. So we'll stay in touch here, and of course, and then I'm going to get my tickets, and I'm see you in December.
Absolutely, that'd be awesome.
So, well, don't die, Rusty Nation. As always, keep chasing your dreams, being the best you, and of course, don't die, Rusty.
Thank you.